Hey, reminder here at the top of the recording, use the holiday theme.
The holiday theme, the holiday theme, ding, 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 the holiday theme. Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me, as always, is my fellow film watcher, compadre, and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
Hello, ho, 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 ho. Is that going to remind me?
Well, I did at the top of the recording remind you, so...
Okay. I'd forgotten already.
Well, good news.
Yes?
It'll be the first thing that hits you when you go to edit this,
It will
won't
be,
it?
yes. Okay, good. That's why I leave myself reminders. Good. What have you been up to?
Advent of Code has continued, and it's been marginally difficult the past week, but today was nice. I quite liked today's puzzle. Today's puzzle being...
Wednesday's puzzle.
Day 14, not day 15, which I haven't seen yet, and could be...
So it's not Wednesday's puzzle. It's actually Tuesday's puzzle. No?
No, it is Wednesday's puzzle.
Wednesday, right.
But that's not necessarily helpful.
No.
It's the puzzle for day 14,
Okay.
and I enjoyed it.
Good.
I haven't seen the one for day 15 yet. It could be a stinker.
It could be. He is hoping it is.
How dare you? Here's a fun story.
Okay, tell me a fun story.
A few months back, I backed a Kickstarter for Matt Parker, stand-up mathematician, who was recording a show that he put on at the Edinburgh Fringe back in 2019, and he'd intended to take it around other places, but then the pandemic hit, and so eventually this year he decided, well, I'll just record it and send it out to whoever's interested and has money. The story is that one of the rewards was for your name to appear on an arcade cabinet with Matt Parker next to it, and a photo would be taken of Matt with the arcade machine with your name on it,
right.
and sent to you.
Unfortunately, being an arcade game, you only have 3 letters.
No, managed to get the whole thing in there.
Wow.
It worked out.
What, not even a 6-letter restriction that I get?
Well,
I will let you finish.
Yes. Hold on. I've got to remind myself what day this
You've started,
was.
so you can go on.
So, on the 12th, so Monday, the photo finally came through.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, as Matt had been compiling these photos, because what he'd actually done was videoed the thing, and everything would show up, and you don't have to faff about with taking a bunch of photos on a camera. And so he'd set up a script to automatically take screenshots of each of the names, and then a mail merge to send them all out. For a few of these screenshots, the video had accidentally been scooched down a bit, and you could see a little bit of Matt's desktop, and they went out anyway. Now, I had thought that perhaps this might have been intentional, because the show is called Humble Pie, and it's all about mathematical mistakes.
Right.
And when he'd done the show at the Edinburgh Fringe a few years back, some of the flyers were intentionally misaligned, so you could see printing alignment. And some of those intentionally misaligned flyers were then unintentionally realigned by the printers. So that was a whole thing.
Oh, no. They were on the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you hate it when that happens?
This was not intentional. And so today, I have received a corrected image.
Right. Because you didn't get what you paid for.
Yeah. Well, I thought that I had. I was under the impression that everything was fine, and this was a totally reasonable thing to happen.
Right.
And it wasn't. I was happy to go along with it.
Yep.
And Matt was almost going to go along with it as a joke too, but decided that maybe giving everyone the correct image was a good idea.
Okay. So did you have to send your old image back?
By email?
Yeah.
But that would be a good gag, but no.
Right.
No. In fact, I am...
Please bind enclosed
in fact,
as an attachment.
In fact, I am keeping both.
Wow. Okay, fair enough.
And if Matt is disappointed, well, he can come all the way over from the UK and deal with it.
Good.
Sounds like his problem now. Is anything else happening?
I don't know.
At some point in the next little bit, I'm going to be heading over to council in order to inspect candidate expenditure returns, because they don't just publish those. You have to ask and go out there.
Yeah.
And I could go all the way out to Moona, where the TEC is, because those are where they're sent to.
Yeah.
But that's all the way out at Moona. And the legislation also gives copies to the general manager, which is to say the CEO.
Right.
And that's a whole thing, but...
So are you then allowed to publish those figures?
I am allowed to publish those figures.
There we go.
I just probably can't make direct copies.
No.
I'll have to bring along a spreadsheet. I'll take my tablet with me. I take my tablet everywhere.
You do.
That, I think, as far as I can remember, is... Well, okay, so I still haven't finished the blog post for the last meeting yet. I'm hoping to get that done later tonight. But that is all I can recall that's going on with me.
Right. Okay.
I hear you have good news.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I'm thinking, I've got to talk about what I've done this week, and I couldn't think of anything. But then I thought, hang on, did that thing happen in between the last episode and this episode, or has it all resolved itself? And I don't think it had.
I believe my shirt arrived.
Yes.
My shirt arrived.
There we go.
Both of our ongoing storylines have been resolved.
That's right. Thomas's shirt has finally arrived, and I did end up receiving a replacement entire carburetor for the lawnmower, and just whipped the fuel bowl right off that, and because I knew that everything was... Well, I assumed that I had cleaned the jets sufficiently and everything was fine with everything other than the fuel bowl with the holes in the bottom. And so I changed that. To change that, you have to remove the carburetor and remove all of the lines that are going into the carburetor, both fuel lines and control wires and what have you. Then reconnected all that and poured some fuel into it and pulled the lawnmower out of the shed and turned the choke on full and pulled once, and it started. It started, and it kept going and going and going, and I could rev, and I was quite elated, and so...
Which is probably a good thing, because otherwise you would have dragged out the tripod for nothing.
That's right. I did even take a tripod out, and actually... a little bit of movie magic happened there. The tripod filmed me reenacting the event.
Yeah.
But Emily, if we need witnesses, Emily was watching, on that first attempt. And yes, the good old Honda started first time. And then I desperately needed to start mowing, so started mowing, and then it died on me again.
Oh.
I thought, oh no. So
Had it just run out of fuel?
No. I had filled it, and so I felt underneath where the fuel bowl was, and it was damp.
Oh.
And not just damp because of the fact that the grass was very, very wet and I was mowing in the rain. No, I smelt my fingers and it smelled of petrol. I thought, oh no. So I clamped the fuel line and turned the fuel off and undid absolutely everything and discovered that I'd put a gasket in upside down.
That'd do it.
So I thought, okay, good. I've picked this up and I'm feeling really good. Flipped the gasket up the right way because they're very similar, but not quite enough. So I suspected that was the problem and tightened it all up, and off I went again. And then I thought, look, I better check, and felt underneath, and no, it's still very, very wet and smelling of petrol. And then I had an aha moment. This little bowl has a fuel screw in the bottom of it as well. That is meant to be tight and has always been tight on the old one. But the one that I just put on, I felt it and I could wobble it with my fingers. So I quickly tightened that up and wiped it all off, and then spent the next 2 hours mowing the lawn. 2 hours plus.
And a bunch of fuel, which is to say oil, running over it isn't going to help it be tight, is it?
So, yes, everything is good. And the interesting thing is, I was a bit worried about how long this replacement carburetor was going to take, which only cost me $20 for the whole kit and caboodle, plus spark plugs and fuel lines and fuel filters. I was concerned about how long that was going to take coming, and so I ducked into the place that everyone recommended, where I could get a fuel bowl, and asked how much for a fuel bowl for this. And he looked at his computer and gave me the impression that he really didn't want to help. Have I told this story?
Not on the podcast. I feel.
Oh,
I don't.
I'm getting this feeling of deja vu.
You've
Anyway,
definitely told it on Facebook.
$59.
Yeah.
For just the bowl, without even the O-ring seal. Yeah, $59. So, okay, I will wait. And the next day, the whole kit and caboodle arrived.
Then you definitely won't have talked about it on the podcast.
Right. Okay. I think it was the next day. Oh, look, anyway, the thing is, it's going. The front lawn is mowed. The back lawn is like a jungle, but it will have to wait until it stops raining. Anyway, I'm exhausted. And
I want to make sure that I'm not telling a fib here.
What fib?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Good. You're not telling.
You wouldn't
fibs?
have told that story on the podcast.
Okay. Right. Anyway, it's all working. You have your shirt. We have a working lawnmower, which the lawnmower only costs $51. And I was concerned that, it was that weighing up of, is it going to be cheaper to buy a new lawnmower than to fix it? And definitely didn't, even compared to the ridiculous price that I paid for the lawnmower originally. Anyway, we have a movie to watch. Why does anyone listen to this?
Apparently they enjoy this.
Well, I have serious concerns about our dear listeners. Anyway, what are we watching this week?
You better watch out. 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 You better watch out.
Better watch out. Better watch out. Okay.
The film's called Better Watch Out.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told it is a Christmas film.
I'm told it is too. As I mentioned last week, it was something that came up on my radar when it was first released, and I thought, oh, maybe that can sit side by side with Rare Export as a crazy, scary. Well, Rare Export isn't particularly scary, but a bit skewed in the way of Christmas movie.
It has jumps.
It does have jump scares, yes. So I got reminded of that a while back and I ordered it. It was filmed in Australia. Apparently I can't completely remember the story, but somebody had, his mother was from Australia or something like that, and they were going to do it for a really, really low budget in the US, and then somebody knew somebody who knew somebody in Australia, and they got a very much increased budget if they filmed it in Australia. So,
and you know, tax incentives
yes,
always enticing.
Yeah,
aren't
but
they?
all of that got written off by having to replenish the snow every 5 minutes. Anyway, what's it all about?
On a peaceful and quiet suburban street during the holiday season, a babysitter must defend a 12-year-old boy from strangers breaking into the house, only to discover that this is far from a normal home invasion.
Dun, dun, dun. Is that it?
Well, the rest is talking about the cast.
Right.
And saying that it's destined to be a Christmas classic.
I guess we're about to find out whether that is truly the case. Thomas is going to open the case to find out whether it is the case.
It is?
It is.
It is a Blu-ray case.
Okay, he's going to take the Blu-ray out of the case. He's going to pop it into the machine. We're going to switch the TV from Chromecast to Blu-ray player. We're going to watch the film, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So we shall catch you on the flip side.
You better watch out. 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 Just cut me off.
Okay.
Hard cut anyway.
What about here? So, what did you think?
Dear listener.
Yes. Oh, I'm not the dear listener. I'm the dear podcaster.
Dear listener, over the course of recording Still Under Wraps and then Cellulose Free, this is our 187th episode.
That many.
Consuming our 187th film. The definition of film gets a little bit shaky, but we'll say 187.
I think so, yeah.
And we have always had a policy that if either of us are in any way uncomfortable with the film that we are viewing, we are allowed to throw up a white flag.
Yes.
And then we will stop. And at that point, we'll probably talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
Talk about how we got to this point. In the previous 186 episodes, we have not done that.
No, we have not. We have never called a white flag.
I've come close a couple of times, usually around mental health problems and depictions thereof, because I get uncomfortable around particularly extreme depictions.
Yes.
And here we are, episode 187.
And I called a white flag.
And I was pretty close too.
40 minutes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started from a baseline of a bit icky.
It did. Yep.
And it didn't get better from there.
It certainly laid down a number of setting things up. You know, there was Chekhov's pencil. I mean, I'm sure that pencil was bound to make an appearance somewhere in the film.
Surely.
The fetal heartbeat, the pacifying, soothing heartbeat machine. I'm sure that was going to make an appearance too. The huntsman, sorry, that's a Australian spider, which was quite obviously a huntsman in this film, was introduced quite early on. And mention of why do people go up in the attic? And of course, that was set up to... And that's one thing we did see. They did end up in the attic, and the huntsman, it was the huntsman or a spider again, made an appearance. And yeah, it was off kilter, and look, this film was meant to be an off kilter film, but it was off kilter in the wrong direction right from the start for me. But then it just got really uncomfortably icky.
I concede the plot points. I think a film handled differently with the same plot points might have worked out.
Yeah.
The twist, half an hour in, is pretty good, if maybe a little obvious.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
plot is one thing, it's all the things you put around the plot.
Yeah, and it is frustrating in that there is still a slight hankering to know how this all resolves. But if I have to slog through young teenage boys putting an older female in an uncomfortable position and in an icky way, here I am still trying to not give spoilers, but yeah, it was just wrong and just made me very, very uncomfortable.
If I had come across this on a streaming service, I would have given up already, because my standard for continuing on with a film is a little higher outside of this podcast, and it still didn't clear the lower bar that I have, because sort of a point of pride that we'd not white flagged anything up until now.
But I don't have any regrets that we did on this one. If what we hit was going to continue, and all I could think was, you've hit this at this stage in the movie. How much worse is it going to get? And I don't want to know.
No.
Huh. So there we go. A white flag at episode 1. What did you say?
187.
Yeah. Well, we get an early night, I guess.
Yeah, we will.
Do you have anything else you wish to...
No.
Hey, let's move on then.
The following segment is sitting on my head. Please get off my head. Okay. It'll be interesting to see what we're talking about 3 weeks from now.
Right.
But our listeners now are blissfully unaware.
Indeed.
Up until they've heard this.
Yes.
Assuming...
Oh, I'm thinking 3 weeks? Why that long? That's right, we're going on a brief hiatus.
We're going on a brief hiatus, and then a brief return, and then we're sodding off into the sunset.
Of course, people will complain that, no, you promised us 100 movies watched. Anyway, so what have we got?
Let's see. What has come through?
I don't know.
Nothing on that Facebook post. Nothing on the other Facebook post.
No. It's that time of year. Everyone's too busy.
Nothing on Twitter. Oh, good. Dunkel.
Hi, Dunkel.
Over on the YouTubes.
You're a ray of sunshine, Dunkel, in a dark, cloudy podcast.
So, in Holiday Special 2022B, because this is...
Yes.
Will you reveal which one of you wins Cellulose free? I think, in this particular instance, we all lost.
We did, yes. You don't get a prize, and you don't get a prize. You don't get a prize. You all don't get a prize.
Now, Dunkel says that she was posting from an Android phone. And that she was under the assumption that the emoji were pie.
Right.
And not flatbread, as they turned out to be.
Right.
And, got grill marks
Yes.
on the flatbread.
Yeah.
So I can see how that would be confused for pie. But it was not pie, it was flatbread.
Yeah.
And she obviously gets a little further into the podcast after posting that, because in a reply to that comment she says, "Oh." She also says that she remembers seeing the comment count say there was an extra comment than was visible, and I am absolutely certain that it wasn't in Held for Review or anywhere I could find it.
I reckon it ended up in the odd sock drawer. Yep. Yep.
And finally,
Yes.
she leaves a guess,
Oh.
and that guess is
Yes.
NITEBC, which is not correct.
No, it is not.
And now I have to remind myself if Entosferatu left a guess. And I have stuff that's not just from Entosferatu.
Ooh.
First comment from Entosferatu. It's an episode worth listening at 1 times speed. Which is, of course, a reference to the shirt that I accidentally designed, which was a reference to Sidewalk Slam, a Loading Ready Run wrestling podcast. Excited for Colin's forthcoming Batman 1989 / Nightmare Before Christmas mashup album.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
As far as the film, it's an odd case where it was released right when I would have been totally into it, but I was barely aware of it, and didn't actually see it until well into the 2000s somehow. I had to look up the release date. For whatever reason, I thought it had maybe come out closer to 1999, when I was in a small university town, and was limited to whatever was at the weird local video rental, or the old downtown theatre, so I missed a lot of things that came out around then.
Why did I imagine tumbleweeds then? Sorry.
Between wrapping up the first half of last week's recording and starting the film, I'd been tootling around on my tablet, and I found out that James and the Giant Peach, which came out after The Nightmare Before Christmas, came out in 1996. Which feels wrong to me, and I think it might be because I didn't see it for several years after that.
No. And neither did I. Because I certainly didn't see it at the cinema. I never got it on VHS. So
it's like a joke from another Loading Ready Run video. You assume that things are new because this is the first time that you're seeing them.
Yes. Yep. That also ripples on to when you find out that somebody has just started watching one of your favourite TV shows for the first time. That's been out for decades. But you get this feeling of envy that for them, all that's about to happen is entirely new for them.
Of course, things are not new just because you've never heard of them before.
No, that's right.
Meanwhile, in another shadier part of Discord.
The dark Discord.
In an open-air gazebo. Which will make sense to some people,
yes.
Black Rose Duelist.
Hi, Black Rose Duelist. Was that duelist?
Yes, with an E, as in someone who duels.
Duels, yes.
You're right, and you should say it. I thought I was insane for not liking this movie. Also, Danny Elfman, the only score of his that I can really pick out of my head is Beetlejuice, work in the band Oingo Boingo, notwithstanding.
Right.
And that
swings us back round to Dunkel.
Right, yes.
Because
nobody else made
a guess. Dunkel's guess was mighty, mighty fine, but wrong. It was, in fact, NGT MRE. Nightmare. Nightmare. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and our new dear listener,
You old... Who's to say?
Exactly.
I don't usually get feedback by that channel.
No. There are people listening that we are unaware of.
I think from the figures that we already knew this was probably true.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
We'll be very interested to see how people respond to this strangest of episodes.
Yeah. Look, and I don't think it's particularly well... If it was a particularly well-known film, it might get even more of a reaction, but it's not. I suspect that it has flown under everybody's radar, and possibly that's a good thing. It was not for me. Anyway.
It got a reasonable score on Rotten Tomatoes.
It did, and that's what got me excited. That's what made me actually switch, because I compared it to the Family Man that was going to be the Christmas special, and that only got a 57 or something like that.
Now, it is important to take things in their full context. 89% approval rating for an average of just 6.9 out of 10.
For an average... I don't get what you're saying.
So Rotten Tomatoes, the first thing that it shows you is the percentage of critics who approved of the film.
Right, okay.
To some level.
Yep.
And then you can dig deeper and find, an average score from those who gave it a score.
Scores, yep.
And that puts it at a 6.9.
Okay.
Was there an audience score on it? There was probably an audience score.
There probably was.
It's on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
64% audience score, which is still technically fresh.
It is, but that's, nothing to write home about. Neither was this film.
Oh no, we had plenty to write about.
We did. All right, anyway, we
let's
digress.
Move
yes,
on.
Let's move on.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
And it is your turn.
It is my last turn in regulation.
That's right. Discounting the January special and the February special and the month before Easter special, the Easter special, the...
We don't have to go that far. You're the one who's having to do most of the work here.
Oh.
And we will...
Well, it's strange because last week when I was editing it, I kept on flipping between, I'm going to miss this. I hate this. I'm going to miss this. I hate this. So...
Okay. So...
And I don't know what this is, do I? I have not looked.
You haven't looked, no.
So... Everything hinges on what...
No, I don't want categories. No, I do want categories. There we go. Okay. There and there.
He's actually forgotten what it is.
I haven't forgotten what it is. I want to bring it up.
Right.
Okay. This is a film that I have not watched.
Oh dear. That's dangerous.
And may be surprising that I have not watched.
Okay. Lawrence of Arabia.
No.
The Ten Commandments.
No. I have seen some of the Ten Commandments, which is a very long film.
Yes, and it was a very long time ago. Yes.
This film is from 1997.
Okay. So you definitely didn't see it in the cinema?
No. And it is animated.
Right. And you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. And it's on the shelf?
It is on the shelf.
Right. 97.
Although I'm pretty sure we won't have to pull it off the shelf, but I'm just checking again because now I'm thinking about it. And no, we will not have to pull it off the shelf.
Okay.
Because it will be on Netflix.
Right, so it's not a Disney film?
It's not a Disney film, no.
Okay.
Released by Miramax.
Right.
At least here.
Okay.
Directed by one Miyazaki.
I was suspecting that it was going to be a Studio Ghibli.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a Studio Ghibli.
It is, yes.
97. Okay. Is it? Because I can't remember whether you've seen Princess Mononoke.
I have not seen Princess Mononoke.
Is that what we're watching next week?
We are.
Excellent. Wow. I've got an interesting story to tell about that.
Right.
But that can wait till next week. Well, actually, will I remember next week? I don't know.
I know that at least one of my siblings has seen it.
Yes.
And all of them are younger than me.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's the interesting story. Brianna watched it when she was about 8, I think, because the copy that I got offered it and bought it off a friend, and it's a US copy with no classification on it. And I was thinking, right, Studio Ghibli, this will be fine. And
the My Movies database lists its rating in the US as PG-13.
yes,
For images of violence and gore.
yeah. Well, that is quite a fitting classification. So we sat down and watched it, and it was during the time where you'd go out on a certain night each week for about an hour, and
that
so
tracks, yes.
So I thought, let's watch this. We'll watch it over 2 weeks, and I was thinking, I'm a bad parent, and yet it's an amazing film, and she was enthralled, but sort of peeking between fingers on occasions. But we got to the halfway through mark and thought, right, we'd better stop there. And then we got round to the following week, and I thought, she said, right, can we watch the rest of it, please? Which made me feel even more bad because, yes, we did watch the rest of it. I'm a bad parent. And you can judge me next week.
The thing about Studio Ghibli is that some of their films are My Neighbor Totoro, and some of them are Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah. So, Princess Mononoke. Or Mononoke.
A. Mononoke.
Mononoke.
E, which is the letter I. U, which is you.
Now, if it was in German, I would have been able to pronounce it correctly.
E.
Because I didn't do Japanese. Thomas did Japanese. So we're actually going to watch it with no subtitles in the original Japanese, and he's going to translate all the way through.
I remember enough Japanese to know that the vowels are A, I, U, E, O, which is to say the letter A, the letter I, the letter U, the letter E, the letter O.
So, what are we watching next week?
Princess Mononoke.
We hope that you can join us when we watch that said film. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
Okay. Let's hear you count from 10 to 0.
10.
Forwards.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, minus 16, minus 15, minus 14, minus 13, minus 12, minus 11, minus 10, minus 9, minus 8, minus 7, minus 6, minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0.
Yeah, but you were meant to start at 10.
I did start at 10.
Something weird and hinky happened there.
Yeah, my counting overflowed.
Right. We had an overflow error. Okay. I took that.
Is that going to be a distraction for you?
Can you add alt text to that comment?
The picture on the screen in front of us is the sun setting over a bay on Bruny Island.
No. It's taken from Bruny Island, but the sun is setting way over on the mainland of Tasmania.
Oh.
Yes.
There we go. That corner over there deceived me.
Okay.
That corner which isn't.
Are we ready? Apart from your throat going...
Well, you can cut that out, can't you?
Okay.